Aria GPS, CNN Sunday morning 10 Eastern and Pacific.
Now for our What in the World segment. Remember Mitt Romney's infamous poor comment?
I'm not concerned about the very poor. We have a safety net there. If it needs a repair, I'll fix it. I'm not concerned about the very rich. They're doing just fine. I'm concerned about the very heart of America, the 95% of Americans who right now are struggling.
Well, it got me thinking. Romney was actually being honest about Americans in general. None of us spend much time thinking about the very poor. But we should, because we have a real problem in this area, an economic, political, and moral problem. Now, by Romney's calculations, if 95% of Americans fall in the middle class, how that can be is another question, then there must be 5% of Americans who qualify as poor. Well, no. The number from the OECD, the Association of the World's Developed Economies, is actually 17.3% of Americans who are poor. And how do we compare with other rich countries? We rank 31st of the 34 countries that make up the OECD. Of the 34 member states, only Mexico, Chile, and Israel are worse off than we are. The UK has a poverty rate of 11%, Germany 8.9%, and France 7.2%. They're all much lower. The OECD average is 11%, well lower than ours. Let's look at another chart. This one's even more worrying for Americans. The percentage of children living in poverty. We come in at 20.6% of our children. Again, far worse than other rich countries. Japan, Australia, the UK, Germany, and France all have much better numbers. Mitt Romney spoke about how he would fix the safety net for the poor if it needs repair. Well, let me suggest one place it desperately needs repair, and that is in the area of child poverty. Now, whatever the causes of poverty, when children grow up in desperate circumstances that they had no role in creating, studies show that they will be more likely to drop out of high school, be unemployed, use drugs, have children out of wedlock, and get sick. In other words, they will be unproductive members of society, and they will cost taxpayers huge amounts of money over the course of their lives. Children in extreme poverty do badly even when they're smart. A recent U.S. study tracked a group of 8th graders in 1988. It found that students who did very well on a standardized test but were poor were less likely to get through college than their peers who tested poorly but were well off. Now look at healthcare. A key indicator of the level of health in a country is its infant mortality rate. That's when a child dies within the first year of his or her life. Let's compare again. We're at about 6 deaths for every 1,000 live births. Again, the UK, Australia, Germany, France, Japan all fare much better. Japan's rate is less than half ours. And this is simply because many mothers in America don't have access to prenatal care. Malnutrition and poor childhood health care set in motion a lifetime of poor health, which of course means huge costs to the system and to taxpayers. On indicator after indicator, the U.S. compares badly with other rich nations on not only how impoverished it is, but also the facilities and opportunities it is giving the very poor. That's why social mobility has stalled in America. Compared to other rich countries, poor Americans are more likely to stay poor. This chart shows how more than 40% of American men whose fathers had earnings in the bottom fifth end up in the same bracket. Britain, Denmark, Finland, Norway all perform much better. The sad part is these statistics are reversible. I'll show you one last chart. Compare child poverty rates in America and the UK over time. You'll see that the UK's rates were halved within a decade from the mid-1990s on. The US, on the other hand, has actually had a rise in its child poverty rate since then. Now, there's no secret sauce here. Tony Blair's Labour government simply made reducing child poverty a priority through various programs. So, Mitt Romney, yes, the media took your comments out of context, but you do need to be concerned about the very poor. Actually, we all do.